Hi, in this presentation video, we actually demonstrate how we do test-driven development and continuous deployment on a day-to-day basis with some actual coding. But first, let's look at some concepts. Continuous integration, as you probably already know, is the process of integrating early and often. Typically, this integration process includes running automated unit tests, and if the tests are successful, create a build of the latest version. Continuous deployment happens when we add an automated deployment step at the final stage of continuous integration. This entails running automated deploy scripts to push it to production or staging, in addition to running acceptance and maybe even security and performance tests. Continuous delivery means that the software is always deployable, but explaining more on this is outside the scope of this demo. Okay, so we have a delivery team, a version control system like Git, a continuous integration server like Jenkins, which can run unit tests and create the build, and the final two stages of build pipeline are staging and production for deployment. The continuous integration server, along with staging and production, makes the build pipeline. You have a development team pushing code often to a version control system after running the unit tests locally. Continuous integration server pulls the code from the version control and runs unit tests on it. This acts as a second line of defense. If a test fails, the continuous integration server doesn't allow us to move further. If all the tests pass, then the Jenkins build pipeline deploys the code to staging. After the staging deployment is successful, it is subsequently deployed to the production. Some of the tools that we'll be using: RSpec for doing behavior driven development, that is BDD in Rails, Jasmine for doing the same in JavaScript, and Jenkins build pipeline to help us with the continuous deployment. In this video, we have used the term TDD and BDD almost interchangeably. TDD is more of a programmer-centric concept, whereas BDD is meant for a broader group like testers, analysts, and project managers. You can read about the differences in Dan North's article that we have shown here. For the demo, we are going to build a simple student details application which stores the name and age of students. It will have a simple form with validations to create a student, and it will also show the number of existing students in the system. Okay, that's it. It's time to see some code. We'll be using Ruby on Rails as a framework for developing a sample app which stores the details of students, and we'll be using Rails wizard for it. So we'll choose active record as the ORM which talks to the DB. Git has version control, and HAML for our views, jQuery and RSpec to write our tests on. I think that's it. We click on finish. We'll modify the app name. Let's say student details. So we have the link. We'll just copy it and paste it. Yeah. Okay, so now it has started creating all the necessary directory structure that we need for our Rails app, and it's also installing the dependencies from rubygems.org. Yeah, so that's it. That's done. Now we want to assign the remote of our Git to our version control system, which is unfuddle. So we'll just change the unfuddle to origin so that we can do a git pull and push origin master. That's it. Then what's left? We will add the git config. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so all the structures are created. So now let's start the server. We'll do Rails. The server is already started, so we'll check whether it's running or not. We'll go to localhost 3000, check. Yeah, so our app is up and running now. Okay, so we'll stop the server now and restart it by using Biobook, since we are in a Vagrant VM. Okay, so we restart the server CSS and we rename that tab as server. We open another tab and what we need is a student's controller. So we issue the command Rails generate controller students with the index action. Okay, so now it has created a bunch of files that we want. So we'll delete the index.html in the public folder, as it will override all other views that we'll create. Yeah, so okay, so it is indeed deleted that. Now we will override our index.html.haml to say to something as simple as just a hello world, and we'll check whether it's being reflected in the server or not. Okay, oops, so I think we have to change the route. So we call a method called resources and pass the students a resource to it, so that it will create all the restful routes. Okay, we restart the server and we will check. Okay, so it is great. So it's showing the hello world. So now we need the root of our application on the home page to point to that action. So we will go ahead and make the change in the routes.rb. Will point the root to students controller and index action. So now just our root should show the index action, which contains the hello world. Okay, so it's showing that. So our bootstrapping of the application is done. So we'll go ahead and make a commit. Okay, so one of the things that or one of the features we wanted to show in this demo is how early we use the CI server, so that we will get the customer feedback at the earliest. So we'll just go ahead and deploy this seemingly simple looking hello world application via our CI server to Heroku, and okay, we'll do a git push origin master. It's taking some time to push. Yeah, I think it has done a push. Okay, so this is our CI setup. We have created a new job called student details, and we entered our VCS details, and we entered a bunch of commands to push to Heroku. Now we are doing the build. It's already started. It's cloning from the remote repo and trying to push to Heroku. So Heroku has already detected that it's a Rails app. It's again installing all the dependencies we need, and it's trying to compile the slug. Okay, so it looks like it has finished deployment successfully. Now we'll have to check the URL. studentdetails.herokuapp.com is what we gave. Okay, so it's showing hello world. Okay, now we need a model, students model, as we need to interact with the DB from now on. So we'll create a student model, Rails generate model. We'll have two fields for name and age, and then we migrate the DB, both the development as well as the test DB. Okay, so now we'll start doing TDD. We'll start with the first spec that would be for the new action of the student's controller. So it should uh, it should, yeah, it should actually render the student's form. So this will be our first failing spec. So we will call that action and expect the rendered to have the action, to have the template new. We will yeah. So this is kind of basic testing, like after calling the controller a student instance, a variable that we are going to give, it should not be blank and it should render the corresponding template, that is new.html.haml. So let's check what is it showing. It will fail for sure. Yeah, so it has said expected blank to return false but got true. That was expected. So we'll go ahead and create the new action, and we will create our instant variable student, and we'll instantiate that and then check the spec again. Okay, so it has passed because our student instance variable was populated, and Rails by default renders the name of the template with the same name as the action. So our new.html.haml got rendered. Okay, so now the next test is to check whether it will render the student's form or not. So we want a form in which we can enter the student's details like the name and the age. So we will be so we do the failing spec for that. Let's check. Yeah, so we asserted it to have a form element, form CSS selector, which it doesn't have. So the test failed. We'll go ahead and add the form. It's going to be a simple form, so we'll say form for students. Form for is actually a Rails helper which spits out the form tag along with the details which we are now giving. I'll say f.label name, which will have a label name, and text field for let's say name and age. Okay, so it's name. We'll have a label and the corresponding field for age also. And we will have a button for submit. It's as simple as f.submit in Rails. So we'll check whether the spec is passing or not. Oops, I think we need to assign the student instance variable that we are using. So we will go ahead and do that. Okay, so now it has passed. So we will restart the server and see how our form looks like. It's just a basic form without any CSS. We'll say /students.new, and yeah, we have our form. Now that we have the form ready, let's go ahead and write the test for the create action. So basically what we want to assert over here is it should create a student entry in the DB on successful submission of the form. So let's go ahead and write the controller spec for that. It's a test for the create action, which is a post action. So it should create a student. We create a dummy variable called student. Then what we do is we stop the new method of the student class to return that dummy object. Now the reason why we are doing is I'm visualizing the code to be like this in the create action. First it should instantiate a student object, and then it should call a method called save bank. So in order to ensure that both the student object in the test as well as in our code is same, we stub it, and then we call a method called student.should receive save bank. It's an RSpec mock which sets up the assertion that the student object should receive a method called save bank. So after that we call the create action, passing it the parameters what we have got from the form, its name and age. So now let's see, we'll execute this spec. It should fail. Okay, so the test has failed as it was expecting a call to the save bank method, but our create method in the code is empty. So let's go ahead and have the code now. Student is equal to student.new, and we pass in the parameter of what we have actually got from the form, and then we invoke the save bank method on that object. So let's now see whether the test passes or not. Okay, so the create action is done. So now let's get the list of all the students. So we modify the index action of our students controller to have the list. Add students has the list now. So we'll go to the corresponding view, that is index.html.yaml, and we will type something simple. There are add students.count a number of students. So basically we want to show this view or render this view on successful completion of our students form. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we will also have a link to go back to that form again. So we'll add a link to method which takes in the name of that link and the action it should call on click of that link, which in our case is the new action of the students controller. So it's new student path. Okay, so we will see the change in the browser. Yeah, so we've got the change. It is showing there are 0 students because we don't have a student yet in the DB. So we'll go ahead and create that. We'll click on add student. Okay, so I type in a name and an age. I click on create student and go. So now it's complaining that the template is missing. So basically our app doesn't know which template to render on successful launching or on successful submission of the form. So we'll modify the existing test to, it should create a student and launch the home page. So basically what we want it to do is after successful form submission, we want to redirect to the index action and render index.html.yaml. So we added the test. Let's see whether it would pass or not. It will fail, I think, because we don't have the code yet. Okay, so it's the same message we got in the browser, so that's a validation for us. Okay, so now we will go ahead and make the changes on, like after the create action on successful saving of the student, we make it redirect to student's path, which in Rails language hits the index action and renders the index template. So now the test is passed. Okay, let's see. There are one student because we already created one student. So we'll go ahead and enter another student. It's Anup, and some age. And yeah, so it is now redirecting to our index action. Okay, so now that we've already implemented our code, let us deploy it in Jenkins. So we have created a new job called student details RSpec, which has pretty much the same configuration, but it has the commands to fire up RSpec in that server, and it can run all the tests. And we have connected that to the job which actually deploys it in the production and created a build pipeline. So this is a build pipeline, as you can see, which has two jobs now, the RSpec job and the job which actually deploys. So we have started the RSpec job. It should execute all the specs. Yeah, so it has. So as you're seeing, it has finished the execution of specs. Okay, so all the specs are passing. So let's go ahead and click on the second job in the pipeline. It is as easy as a push button deployment. Okay, so it looks like it has started. Yeah. Okay, so it seems that it has finished the deployment successfully. Let's check it out in our site, studentdetails.herokuapp.com. Yeah, so all the things are going as we have expected. Okay. So now we'll be adding some sort of a client-side validation to our students form, for which we'll be using JavaScript and Jasmine as a unit testing framework. So it has executed successfully, and as you can see, it has created our fixture which will be served by the JS test driver on the call of the method load student form fixture. So now let us go ahead and implement the spec. It should validate the form. So what we'll do is we will create a form object. It will be a jQuery object, and then on an empty form we will fire a submit. Since the form is empty, we will be expecting it to show some sort of a error in some HTML element. So we will make a call to this method bind validation for student form, which of course we have not created yet, and then we will do a form dot submit, and we will expect we'll expect the error element to be populated with the text name can't be blank. Okay, so that's a spec. Now we will start this server, the JS driver server. It should start. Yeah, it's started. So we will capture the browser. We'll go to the pre-configured port for that, 9876, and capture the browser. So now we will start the test. We have a script to start it, test.sh. So as you can see, as expected, the test has failed. It is expecting nothing to match the error message that we gave. So let us implement the code now. We have this function bind validation for student form, which will actually do all the logic. To make the logic simpler, we are using the jQuery validate plugin. So all you have to do is you have to specify some rules and the corresponding error messages it should fire on the violation of those rules. So just to make it simple, we are including the name of the student as well as the age, and both should be there. That means it should not be blank. And then the corresponding error message is also simple. For student name, we have name can't be blank, and for age we'll be having age can't be blank. Okay, and now we'll call this function from a ready handler. Okay, so bind validation for student form. It will be called as soon as the form gets loaded. Okay, so now we execute our test. Yeah, as expected, it has passed now. So now let us give some style to a form. Basically, we want to give 2 breaks for the individual fields. Okay, now let's see how it looks. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so now we will do a commit and push this code to our CI server. And JavaScript validation for students form. Yeah. So I make a push. Okay, so now let's deploy this using our CI server, that is Jenkins. So we have configured a new job called student details JS test and put it in between the RSpec job and the production job. So RSpec jobs have already passed. Now let us start the JS test job. For that we need to capture the browser for the JS test to run. So yeah, the browser has been captured. So let us start that job. Yeah, so the job is started now. Let's see if it passes or not. Yeah, it seems that it has passed. So now we can safely deploy the app. So let us do that with our third job in the pipeline. Yeah, so it's started the push. Okay, so it seems that it is completed. Let's go ahead and check. Yeah, so yeah, so it seems like it's working. Thanks.